Now, U.S. Congressman Mike Quigley, co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus, member of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence as well. Congressman, good to have you.
Glad to be back. Thank you.
So Russia clearly ratcheting up the pressure on Ukraine with these strikes targeting energy infrastructure that's designed to hit the Ukrainian people, right, to freeze them out, put them in the dark, but also with these drone attacks on Europe. Why now, in your view?
Yeah, look, this is the Putin playbook. Obviously, the attacks on the energy infrastructure, because he knows winter is coming. It's part of the larger war of attrition. And, he's testing NATO. He's just seen what their reaction is. Some people might have called these accidents, but at best, they're reckless behavior because he knows there's not going to be a reaction. I thought it was interesting. The Polish foreign minister, I think over a month ago, Sikorski, said that Putin laughs at Trump's efforts at peace in Ukraine. He needs to match his words with action. And there I agree. It can't be another post on Truth Social with yet another deadline. We've got to pass the sanctions bill, which is bipartisan. We have to seize their assets. And I think if the president started talking about another supplemental, that's something Putin would have to pay attention to.
How about Europe's reaction so far to these drone incursions? Because they've been over multiple countries. Plus, you had the incursion over Estonia's airspace. That was with armed MiG fighter jets. Has NATO responded with enough resolve?
Absolutely not. But I think they're probably asking themselves, how exactly should we do this? Coupled with the fact that they know that they're not certain that President Trump will back them if this gets ugly. He occasionally says what he said recently, he would support Finland if something happened. But President Putin sees this gray area where he can do these incursions, test them, test their ability to respond to this, and absolutely nothing happens to him.
Yeah, gray zone or hybrid war, or call it what you like, shadow war. I wonder if there's another dimension to these attacks, and that is that Ukraine's expanding attacks on Russia's energy infrastructure, that they're working, right? That they're putting economic pressure on Russia and Putin himself.
Well, Putin understands that he's running about 40% of his economy feeding into this war, and that can't go on forever. And these attacks into Russia are starting to have some effect. The more that U.S. can do, the more with European aid that they can do to help on those attacks, the more pressure it puts on Putin. I think Putin probably feels like he still has another year or two with his economy strained at this level. But we've seen in the past that the Soviet economy back then surprised a lot of people. Now is the exact time for the U.S. and NATO to respond strongly. Because again, Putin can't do this forever. He appreciates the fact that if he pushes this now, it makes the chances for a forced peace, an appeased peace, more likely.
Do you sense at all that the tide in this war is turning at all in Ukraine's favor, given its success in attacking Russia's energy infrastructure, seeming to have slowed down Russian progress, which was already quite slow on the Eastern Front? Or is it too early to say?
It's way too early to say. I'm very concerned. I mean, there's a 6-to-1 manpower advantage by the Russians. And this makes it all the more difficult. The Ukrainians, as tough as they are and as miraculous as their efforts have been so far, there's limits to how long they can hold out on those front lines.
Yeah.
I suspect without modern warfare, this would not have lasted this long, but it makes it much more difficult for the Russians to have rapid advancements. I think the Russians see themselves as having very slow but steady progress along the battlefield. And that's what concerns me.
I wonder, as you look forward now, President Trump has raised the possibility of supplying Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. It hasn't happened yet. Would that be a game changer in this war?
I don't know if it's a game changer, but I sure think it would be an eye opener. And I think, again, things along those lines. I don't think it takes a great deal, but again, pass that sanctions bill, put in those Tomahawk missiles, seize the assets, talk about what other kind of aid we can get. I'm hearing that the Ukrainian prime minister is going to be talking with Trump again soon. Just that kind of speculation. That's the kind of news we need to hear to push back on Putin's war of words.
Before we go, you and I have talked about this bipartisan sanctions bill for ages, and it just doesn't go anywhere, right? I mean, do you see any new progress for this happening, or do Republicans need President Trump to say, go ahead?
Look, the fact of the matter is that it's a good bill, but it has waivers. It has the ability for Trump to say, nah, I don't really want to do it. And he hasn't really done anything along these lines yet. So that doesn't breed a lot of confidence. There are discharge petitions that very brave, courageous Republicans have and been willing to sign and to lead. So I encourage them to continue that effort when and if we get back to Congress after this shutdown.
Congressman Mike Quigley, good to have you back. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Take care.